Welcome to the ARW discussion, folks. We got some distinguished guests here, including Mark Presling. He's from Australia. And he's a very imaginative and capable machinist. And we've got, I guess, the cream of the crop. Somebody asked me, why do we do this discussion? What's the purpose of it? Well, it started out as just a way for me to shoot the bull with creators that I'd never get to talk to unless, unless I went to their state. Most of these guys are over 1,000 miles from me. So I'd have never got to sit around and have a conversation with them if it hadn't been for this discussion. And as the discussion progressed, this became a way to promote people's channels. Now, I don't care if you've got 100,000 subscribers or 100 subscribers, you still need to promote your channel. And that's one of the things, the purposes of this thing. And another thing, a lot of these guys have products that they sell, and they're perfectly welcome and promote them here. I don't know if any of you guys ever watch my videos, but I've always got strategic product placement there. There's a Randy Richard knocker handy to see, or there's a Randy Richard scribe, or, a Randy Richard dovetail. And for instance, this is from Lathe. This is a 38 caliber pencil holder for your desktop. We promote stuff like that. We promote Randy's knockers, his dovetail cutters. We promote the bash for Stan Zinkowski when it's time for the bash. And we've got James Clow here, who he's our electronics genius, and he had probably the most spectacular product of all of them. He's got the electronic lead screw. And Chuck there used to sell screwy balls. I'm not sure what he's selling right now. Oh, yeah, he's selling spacers for grinders. I think that's spacer or balancer. I'm not sure which. And we got Winky. He sells upgrade plates for your Harbor Freight saw. There's Memo. He does custom work on automobiles and trucks. So if you just look at it, the purpose of this channel is being met, and these guys are, perfectly welcome to hawk any of their wares here. They got a product. We'll put a link down in the description if they want us to put it there. And so the discussion has grown into a promotion for other people, and I like it. I don't know about you guys. I hope you do. Anyway, we got Mark Presling here today, and he could tell us a little about his shop if he would. How about it, Mark? Tell us about your shop.
Situation with me is that I used to be an industrial technology teacher. I did that for 35 years. And then during that time, I built a workshop in what used to be our house. So we're living on acreage. And when we first moved here, we built a steel garage. And the idea of that was that we would live in that for about 2 or 3 years while we built a house. And then afterwards, that would become a garage and also a workshop. So over the years, I've refitted that workshop. We got termites into it at one point. And even though it's a steel frame, steel sheeting on the outside, they ate all of the interior lining of the workshop. So I got remodeled. And then about 4 years ago, I extended the workshop out towards the rear of the property. And I was able to build a separate workshop for woodworking and another one for metalworking. So I still have to share that workshop with 2 cars. But I guess my reason for starting on YouTube was that I was looking towards retirement, and I absolutely love teaching. And it was just a way for me to be able to continue that process after I retired. So the whole gist of my videos is about showing what I do. So I'm not necessarily making products. I'm just sort of making things that interest me. And I figured that some people might be interested in watching along as I do that. So my videos are pretty much just narratives. So it's start to finish on a project. And I've just started one yesterday, which is a small nitro engine. Now, this came out of a contact I had through YouTube. A gentleman in the United States contacted me, and he said he had this kit to make up this little nitro engine, and he wanted to give it to me. And it was a very generous offer, and it cost him a lot of money to send it out to me. But I figured that it would be more interesting if I actually made the engine and returned it to him. And there's a quite an interesting story behind how he came to have the kit. And he's a bit like me. He was a shop teacher, and the gentleman that gave him the kit for the nitro engine is getting very old, and he realized he would never be able to make one for himself. So that's the story, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. And I just got through yesterday machining up part of the crankshaft, which has been really scary because it's a quite a difficult setup, but I'm enjoying the challenge. It's great.
Do you have air conditioning in your shop?
No, I do not, and we get very, very hot summers here. And if you ever watch any of my videos, you often see me saying, "I got to pack up because it's just too hot," and it's sort of partly insulated, but yeah, it'd be lovely to have an air conditioned shop.
Well, I've noticed a lot of the creators here are buying those mini split systems for their shops, and I'm not sure. I guess that a lot of them are donated to them as advertising or something, because I've looked at those several years ago, and they're way more expensive than a similar sized window unit. Of course, if your shop doesn't have a window, it's you're gonna have to make one, so they're easier to install in that respect because you just got to drill a hole in the wall. But these things, the cheapest new imports come in above $1,100, maybe $1,200, and you can go down to Home Depot and buy an LG 2-ton window unit for the same price as that 2-ton mini split, or same price for, I guess, about half of the price of that mini split. So what do you guys think? You going to buy a mini split?
I just put one in. Best investment I ever made in the shop. And I paid for it. I found out later that they're giving them to people, but I didn't know that. So I was a sucker and I paid full price, but it was worth every penny. And we just got a chance to use the heat, right? Because it's a heat pump, goes both ways, and the heat is significant. It puts out at least twice the heat of that little 4 kilowatt heater I'd been running.
Oh, looks like Chuck's got one there in the background.
Yeah, it's in my son Tim's room when he was with us, so that we could control his environment. So now it's my office, but it works well. We've had it for 20 plus years.
That's a long time. Back several years ago, this room that I'm in right now, come August, it was just way too hot. And the last time I had an air conditioner installed, I told the guy, I said, I want one big enough that room on the west side upstairs, it's not going to be hot in August. And he did the job. But I had been looking at mini splits and stuff to cool this room off back then. That was 2009, 2010. But my neighborhood association wasn't really in favor of it. Another thing that I've noticed, I was watching Quinn Dunkey. She's got a little tilt table that she used with her mill, and the handy one's got a crank. Now I've got a tilt table. It's bigger than that I use on my mill. It doesn't have a crank though. I have to kind of just manhandle it around. But I find it's really convenient that to use it instead of having to tilt the head of the mill. I mean, it's a Bridgeport clone and it'll do it. But you got in all that alignment after you get through.
Yeah, and it depends what you're trying to do. Tilting the head of the mill may not get you what you need, depending on what. If you're just trying to cut a V groove, yeah, you can do it either way. But
well, I think with a tilt table, it's a whole lot less work than setting up to cut the groove and then going to have to reset up your head.
So do you mount your vise on the table?
Yeah, you just bolt it down to the table. When I got it from Grizzly, it took months and months. They were out of stock. I got on the list.
You're not using a vise at all in that scenario, right? It's just a tilting fixture sits on the table, and then you use the clamps down to it.
Yeah, you can, but mine's big enough I could put a small vise on it. Now, I couldn't put my Kurt vise on it, but I could get a little one.
A little toolmaker's vise or something.
Yeah, something like that would fit.
That's something I did just recently. I bought a little 2-inch grinding vise, and I got a Kurt style vise on the mill. And putting that little 2-inch grinding vise in there gives you all the capability of actually rotating your part. And it's brilliant. I don't know why I didn't do it ages ago. I think I've seen Stefan Gottswinter do it a lot. But I don't have a tilt table. And when you've got to orient a part in a sort of weird position, it means you can grip the vise lots of different ways. And if you've got angle blocks, you can set it up quite easily. Because I think, unlike you, I hate tilting the head. I had to do it one day, and you got to tram it back again. It just seems to take forever.
I've got a tilting table like Harold's talking about, but I also built the ox tool pallet where you put a piece of round on the underside of the pallet, and now you have a tilting table, and you just put it right in the Kurt vise, and you don't even have to set up anything, and it works really well.
That's a project I want to do here pretty soon.
Yeah, I just made a pallet, but I didn't do that. I didn't put the round bar on it, and sort of afterwards I thought, I wonder if I could sort of retrofit it later, because I've seen the reasons why you do it. It just seems like a brilliant idea.
Yeah, it works well.
Yeah, I picked up a little Herman Schmidt grinding vise. As soon as Tom Lipton showed it on his channel and the prices shot up, that's when I went out and bought one. And that's
right
a
after
beautiful little vise, yeah.
That'll
easily go in a 6-inch Kurt at any angle you want.
I've got I think I picked up a 5-inch sign vise. It's a toolmaker's vise. It's got a sign plate built into it. This Chinese import, but it seems like it's good, decent quality. I mean, it's no Herman Schmidt, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, the better tool you can buy, the better results you can get, even for a hack like me.
Yeah, but in my case, then you've also got idiots that are running machines that can damage them pretty quick and easily too. So
I fill in that part here.
I haven't been to your shop yet.
Seems like you could build a tilting table.
Well, you could, but these guys have got the thing pretty close to level, you know?
Yeah.
When I got it, I ran it back and forth on the mill table with a dial indicator on the spindle, and it actually has a little bit of a tilt, about 4,000 tilt from one corner to the other going downhill. So that's something to keep in mind when you want to do some work on it. You gotta remember to compensate for that little bit of tilt.
4,000 seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's a 12-inch tabletop, so I guess it probably is quite a lot, but you know,
depends on what you're doing, I guess.
Yeah, most of the stuff I do doesn't require precision.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you don't want it though.
Oh yeah, I want it, but you know, you take me and the equipment and put us together, and you're not likely to get it.
And then chasing tents. You can spend hours chasing tents when you couple thousand, you're good to go. Save yourself a heartache.
Yeah, on a mill. I've done it before, right? I've machined something to within 2 or 3 tenths on a mill, but it's just a lot of work. It's just
you better
a lot
believe
of work.
it. Yeah, I've got a video coming out Tuesday where I use a new tail live center for the tailstock, and if you look at it, live center looks like it's doing this. It's orbiting everything, but the workpiece is just steady as a rock. So I guess the little cone on the end is straight, and the rest of it's all, wobbly. But
even if it's wobbling off center, your center hole will end up off center. But as long as it's not slipping, you can still turn the part round. I mean, the center won't be in the right place, but you can't take it out and put it back.
If it's not
slipping.
Yeah.
Hey, Harold, I got a question for you. Where'd Bubba go? Where'd Bubba go?
Bubba?
I haven't heard from Bubba in a long time on any of your videos.
Well, I had a discussion with some of these guys. You know how after we stay after the talk and discuss things, and I made a lot of changes on my channel after that. I stopped the intro that I used to play at the beginning of it, and I stopped the Bubba jokes at the end. And every now and then somebody asks me about Bubba, but I don't know if I ought to bring him back or not. What do you guys think?
I like them.
I just enjoy it.
Well, maybe a couple of videos from now we'll have Bubba back for a guest appearance.
It's just a question just came up just recently about metric and imperial measurements, and I always make a joke of it when I'm doing any of my videos because
I delete comments about that.
when I was going to high school, we were working in imperial systems. So I learned all of my drawing, like technical drawing, using inches and thou and all that sort of stuff. And then when I left school, Australia changed to the metric system. So when I entered college, we did all of our drawing in metric, and we just converted overnight. There was no issue. There was no problem. There were a few old timers who complained about going down to the butcher shop and they didn't know what a kilo of meat looked like. But I can work in both. But the latest video that I was doing, with this little nitro engine, the drawings that were sent to me were all imperial. And I've actually redrawn all of the parts and then put dual measurements on it. And it's interesting because I can look at a dimension there was one, I think 7/16 of an inch on the plan. But when I see that it's 11.11 millimeters, I know what that looks like. So although I can do both, and most of my tooling is capable of doing both, I still prefer metric. But it's a question that comes up very often, and some people see me switch backwards and forwards from metric to imperial measurements, but I'm very comfortable with it. Like I say, for me, metric is just so much easier. But I know if I mention it, I get tons of comments from the USA, often critical. I think one comment that came to me once was they said that NASA put a man on the moon using imperial measurements, and I don't know what to make of it. But there you go. It's not.
It's not true. They're using metric. They use metric.
That's what I understood.
Metric is totally logical, but I'm just the opposite of you. I can picture 7/16, but I can't picture 15 millimeter.
I'm with you, Mark.
Yeah.
Well,
I move smoothly back and forth between them, and I get all kinds of comments from people like, "Man, if you just understood the metric system, that'd be easier." It's like, do you watch the videos? Because I don't even notice it. I slam back and forth whatever's convenient. If I'm working with something that's in metric, whole numbers of millimeters and single tenths, that's pretty convenient. It's when you've got something that was designed to nominal dimensions in one system, and then you're trying to represent those measurements in the other system, that's when all the confusion comes in, because you get these sort of odd numbers. But all of my 3D printing stuff, they're 2 millimeter pitch belts. Everything is in millimeters. All my design, all of my intuition about that's in millimeters. My machine tools all have imperial dials on them. So people say, well, why don't you use millimeters on your lathe? Because the dials got inches. What do you want? It's just
DRO
time.
Yeah,
DRO time. And it amazes me how people jump in and they've got some kind of it's a vendetta, right? They're like, you guys are stupid because you use a different system. Well, no, it's just a system, and it's just what my tool happens to be. I didn't go out and say, I think I'll buy an imperial lathe just to piss off half the internet. I went out to buy a lathe, and they're all imperial where I live. So,
right.
I think when you get real religious about that and start hassling people, if you're not adding anything, I just delete your comments.
The visualization of this, I have this ruler, one side's metric and one side's inches, imperial. Because when I'm doing 3D drawings, it's metric, and I don't know what that is. I can't visualize it, and I have to sit there and flip this back and forth. And okay, I know how big it is.
I do that with my calipers.
You've got the additional layer though of translating the fraction to a decimal before you jump over to metric, depending on depending on the context. So it's complicated.
Well, I think that's one of the things I find. Sorry, one thing I find really difficult is I had a drawing for a Stewart steam engine, and it was all imperial, and there were measurements on it like 23/64 of an inch, and you had to split that because if you were trying to put a hole in the center of the shaft, you had to sort of work over half that dimension. And when it gets to those sort of dimensions there, I just find that really difficult. So, I got a calculator handy. I can use the DRO. And interestingly, my Colchester lathe has dual micrometer dials, so you can actually slip out the collar and work from imperial to metric. But I leave it in imperial all the time because when you slip it out to the metric collar, these spacings between the graduations are so fine, it's very hard to use. Once again, DRO fixes that. But if you were starting out and you had to buy a machine, I guess you just buy what you can get. And when I bought my Bridgeport, I bought it, but I never actually got to see it until it got delivered. And when it turned up in the workshop, I realized it had all metric scales on it, which was brilliant. I thought that was wonderful. But I can work in both. And I think, as James said, you just, it's pointless hassling people about which system they use. It's your workshop. You do what you like.
We had a discussion a couple weeks ago after the live chat about when you're born, you start learning the stuff innately, and I feel kind of gypped because I no other secondary languages and imperial only. There's some people out there like you, Mark, that can think and can visualize both imperial and metric, but after you reach a certain point of age, it's hard to you think imperial and then you have to transpose or translate or convert. But some people out there, they know what a millimeter is, a centimeter is versus an inch. They can visualize both quickly and easily, and it's just in their brain. They don't even have to do a conversion. It's just there. They can visualize it. I'm envious of those kinds of people because I feel like I got gypped growing up.
Yeah, same here. I can visualize centimeters and, larger metric, but when you get down to the really small dimensions, that's when I fail.
Yeah, I mean, innately, somebody's, plastering up there 25.4. I know 25.4. I've got that. I know that 1 inch is 25.4 millimeters. I know it.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean I can visualize, what 10 millimeters is by looking at that. I know it's kind of close to a half, but not, it just doesn't translate very well.
Right.
It's one thing I noticed that I watched a lot of videos of somebody say, I got that dimension to within 1 thou. And when I'm working in my shop, I work in millimeters. And the smallest unit I would normally work to is 0.01 of a millimeter. And when you think about it, that's about 1/3 of 1 thou. So if I'm hitting dimensions within 0.02, I get disappointed. But then I think, all right, well, that's actually less than 1 thou. So it means that I can visualize what I think are smaller dimensions. But the latest project I'm working on, it has tolerances that are within 2 or 3 thou. And I think, well, I can hit that easy. I think that doesn't always happen.
1/10 of a millimeter.
Yeah.
Well, you can just now you can feel superior and you can go comment on everybody's videos and tell them so.
Yeah, I've done that.
Hey, Harold, I want to show you this real quick. You were talking about the people making stuff, and you held up that pencil holder.
Yeah. Oh, how about that?
Yeah. This is a legitimate one. This is an actual off of a true pistol. My dad was a gunsmith, and he made a couple of these up for family and friends and sent it to me. So I've had this for quite a while on my desk.
Yeah. Lee Peden's making these to sell, and I was really lucky. He gave me one, so there you are.
Is that printed, Harold, or is that machined?
It's machined. He made it all out of a piece of aluminum, put it on a plate, put some little things on the bottom of it.
Is it painted or powder coated?
That I don't know. I don't remember. I saw his video, and I just don't remember what he did about the finish. I'm 76 years old,
I may have to get one of Chuck's balancing hubs for the grinder. Try it out. I've got some of those, some of that style that you've got the 3 little weights that you adjust, and those were a pain in the butt.
Well, I think Chuck's looks pretty good. You can put a balancing screw all over those things.
Yeah, Joe Pye machined them, so they're tits.
Cool.
I didn't know that. If Joe Pye did it, it's got to be good. I can tell you.
There are
I'd
YouTube
say
videos out
probably
there
is.
just showing you how to drill holes in the side of the grinding wheel to balance it.
Yeah, I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
Doesn't
No,
sound
makes me
good.
nervous.
Hey, Winky, you was going to promote something here.
Well, I was just going to show you what one of my future videos will be. It's I'm not sure when, probably 2 to 3 weeks. So I'll have at least part 1 or 2. I don't know how many parts it'll be. It's something called a Wimshurst machine.
Yeah.
And it's a static electricity generator.
Yeah.
And it involves, like Mark, wood and metal.
Yeah.
They can complement each other. But, I think I'm ready to do. Wait, let me make sure my other camera's on. Just a sec.
All right. We're going to give Winky the whole screen for a couple of minutes here.
I was going to say, make him big, Harold.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good to go. Let me switch cameras on my end.
All right. Switch cameras, and I'll switch you into a bigger screen. I hope you don't disappear. There we go. Now then, Winky.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Darn it.
Well,
Well, that didn't help.
well, I succeeded on my end.
You can see a full screen on your end.
No, I succeeded in switching cameras.
Well, let's see here. I'm having a malfunction here trying to do that. So maybe I've got to select you down below. There.
No, I think you got to hit the. I think it's one of the icons toward the middle that you click, and then you drag him over.
Maybe that's it. I don't know.
I played with it earlier.
Darn it. Well, it just may not work today because I'm not doing it right. That's for sure.
Well, for all you viewers, just view this chat full screen. That way you'll get a little better.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Winky. I just don't know what the heck I'm doing wrong.
That's okay. This is an interesting machine. It's maybe you'll figure it out while I'm. Oh, there you go. It's got counter-rotating plexiglass discs. It was developed in the 1800s by a guy named James Wimshurst. His looked similar to this, but it's of course back then it was glass discs and glass capacitors. But plastic's a whole lot more efficient at generating a good spark. So it's a pretty interesting machine. I've made about 10 of them. I'll show you what it does here.
Oh, yeah. Mad scientist stuff.
Yeah. Makes about I've got an 8-inch spark right now. I think the humidity's up. It's about a 6-inch spark. It's a mean spark.
Oh, it is. I've watched you make one in your video. That's a lot of work building that little guy.
Yeah, it is a fair amount. They're kind of tedious too. They're finicky. You can have a sharp edge on something, and it'll drain your charge out of the capacitors. Those capacitors are just a plastic container with BBs in it and foil on the outside. And those particular capacitors, I had trouble with a spark blowing a hole through them.
Wow.
So I put a round chunk of styrofoam in the bottom that stopped the BBs from going all the way to the bottom, and it resolved that issue.
Well, there's your question. How many volts you got there?
It's in the 100,000 volt. I should know that answer, but I don't. Probably 300,000 volts. There's formulas you can. They're not very accurate, but you can so many thousand volts per inch.
That's a
Should be
beautiful machine.
3 megavolts per meter. So
There you go.
there you have it in metric.
Yeah. Go ahead and do the math on that. Let's see.
It's a beautiful machine.
Thank you.
So Mark, how do you attach those copper teardrops to the plates?
Oh, yeah, that's something else. I made you can get this copper foil tape. It's a pressure sensitive, peel and stick type tape. And I made a sector puncher. It's actually a machine that cuts them out. It does something called kiss cutting. It goes through the foil and not the backing. And then I lay the disc down on a template, and I can see the template through the disc, and I just manually apply each sector.
Okay. Because there's a process you can use for copper plating non-conductive materials, and I've looked at it before and thought it'd be interesting to try. But I'm wondering whether
you can plate plastic?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and apparently I think it's called electroforming, but it actually builds up a very thick copper layer. And I've seen them do it on things like pine cones and babies' little shoes and that sort of thing.
I wonder if you could use a stencil somehow with that.
Well, I was just thinking whether you copper plate the whole disc and then machine away the areas that you don't want.
Oh, well, I'll stick with the stickers.
You could etch them away like
you can buy that tape at the hardware store, right? They sell it as a slug barrier.
Yeah. I get it online. I get it in a 300-foot roll. And, it's 2 inches or 1.5 inches wide. I've never seen it in the stores, although I've seen it online sold for a slug barrier. It's also sold for electrostatic shielding.
Wow. Well, I haven't never seen the tape.
I used it to run traces down fiberglass helicopter blades, model helicopter blades, to put LEDs on the tips for night flying.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the crazy thing is it's the 10th one I've made, and I can't tell you how they work. I kind of understand the plates going next to each other to generate the charge, but it's got a couple of neutralizer bars, and I got kind of an understanding, but the neutralizer bars are really what it neutralizes the charge across the disk, and it's DC too. It's not AC. But I don't know, maybe someday somebody will explain to me how it works, but so far I've read about it online and I can't figure it out.
So when you were designing this, were you able to look at a prototype, or were you just working off the historical drawings?
Well, the class name for them is an influence machine. And between the 1800s and probably 1940, there were a lot of manufacturers making them. Wimshurst was just one of the first to come up with the design, but there's plenty of pictures out on the internet to look at to get an idea on how to build them. And I belong to an electrostatic machine group on Facebook, and they were a big help on all the particulars. But yeah, this is a whole lot of this is basically my design. The original Wimshurst machines twisted the back disc belt so that it reversed the disc. And this one's got extra pulleys, so you eliminate that twisted belt, which is nice. It would always wear the belt out.
Well, you can't twist your belts because you're using round ones, right?
Yeah, you can twist them. I mean, it's just like,
Oh, you
like
can twist them that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I knew where a good place was to buy round belts.
Well,
anybody got a source?
Yeah, I got a source. Amazon.
I'll look them up.
But what size belt are you looking for?
Oh, probably a 1/2 inch diameter.
Yeah, you might find it on there. This is 1/8 inch, 4 millimeter.
Yeah.
and they
And
melt together.
You melt it? Because I
Yeah.
was just going to say, I've got a little sensitive drilling machine that uses about a 5mm round belt. And I bought about 4 different styles of belt. Some of the ones you actually bond together with heat. And they go okay for a while, and then you put the machine away. And next time you go to use it, it's failed at the joint.
Really?
Yeah, and because I leave it under tension, and then I've taken the idea of just taking the tension off the belt when I store it. Then I bought that type that's got a hollow tube and it's got a screw connector.
Oh yeah.
That's failed. It just fractured.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
The type, they're polyurethane belts, and the ones that melt together. And there is a real trick to making a good weld. And the biggest mistake people make is when they weld the belt, they push it together, the two ends. Okay. And if you push it together, it pushes all the molten rubber out of the way, and you got cold rubber against cold rubber. So to get a good, successful bond, you have to let the heater stay on it a while so it melts deep into the, without feeding belt into the heater. And then when you push the two ends of the belt together, just barely touch them together, where it displaces a little bit of rubber, but not very much. And you'll have a weld that's the same as the rest of the belt.
Okay. And do you use a jig to align it?
They make commercial jigs that are really expensive, but I took my table saw. Of course, I'm working with 1/8" belt, but I just cut a couple of grooves in wood and put a gap in there so I can put my heater in there, and just so they'd stay aligned. And you got to let it cool on this 1/8" belt. You can let it cool for maybe 3 minutes, so you can just sit there and hold it. Larger belts, you need to let it cool maybe 8 or 10 minutes.
That's 3.19 millimeters for our more sophisticated viewers.
Oh, this is 4 millimeters. But it's a good, strong belt, but it is a trick to weld it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I understand now what you're saying, but what I find is really hard is my hands are so unsteady trying to align that thing.
Yeah, you can't do it by hand.
No.
If you have movement while it's cooling, it makes the splice weak. So just cut a groove with your table saw and so the belt fits just perfect, maybe even a little snug, and you can just push it together and it'll stay there.
Okay, cool.
The reason I wanted is I've got that Texas A&M student drill press, and it's got a notched V-belt on it, and I don't like that at all. I'd rather have a nice round belt. It just looked more fitting for the machine.
Yeah, it would. You just need to get a polyurethane belt and splice it together.
Yeah, I'll find a solution. I'm not working on it very hard, but I'm kind of lazy.
Yeah. But I worked in printing, and we used anywhere from 1/8" to 1/2". Of course, it was 4 millimeter up to 10 millimeter. But what you want is probably 10 millimeter.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's got to pull a drill bit. Of course, it's going to be limited to about 3/8" drill bit, I'm pretty sure, but still.
Oh, yeah, you probably don't even need 1/2". Probably 1/4 inch, or depends on your pulleys.
Well, you know what Tom Lipton says, anything built too strong never broke.
Yeah, it just depends on your pulleys too.
Yeah, well, they get pretty good pulleys.
Yeah,
they were for larger belts, I guess.
Right.
But I gotta get it all slicked up so I can sell it and get the room back. I don't have room for the stuff I got right now.
Oh, I hear you there. I recently sold my Logan lathe. It was just like selling one of my kids.
Which one?
That could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending.
Yeah. It was hard to part with, but I absolutely love having the extra space now.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that about my guns. I've never sold one. Even the ones that I haven't used in 10 years, I still haven't sold.
Yeah, I've kind of got over that. It was hard to let the Logan lathe go because I put so much work into it, but now that it's gone, I like the space. I got room to work now.
I need a little room. I pulled my riding lawnmower into the garage the other day and lifted it up with my hoist so I could get under it. And I didn't have room to walk out there. The boss lady even complained. And she hardly ever goes in there.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I'd have a hard time getting my lawnmower in here.
One of the things I notice when I'm watching videos or talking to people in the United States, they talk about buying equipment, buying machines and so on. And that's one thing I've been incredibly envious of, is the ability for people in the USA to just sort of drive 10 miles and buy a milling machine for $15. I'm exaggerating, but that's what it's. No, well, I'm exaggerating, but that's what it seems like.
Yeah, that's pretty extreme.
Yeah, they were talking about that on your last week's episode, weren't they, Harold?
Yeah, that's kind of regional. Down here, the most of the shops just keep on staying in business, and they wear the stuff out before it goes on the market. But they had a unique thing happen up in the north area that they call the Rust Belt. All those factories packed up, went to China, and they sold off lots of good machinery cheap because they just suddenly flooded the market with it. And I guess some of that's happened in California too, because around here, you go to look for a Bridgeport, it's going to the table is going to look like Swiss cheese. There's going to be rust everywhere and dirt, and not too grand.
Well, I told you I was looking for, I looked for my Bridgeport on Craigslist, one locally I could go get easily for over 2 years before it popped up.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, come to find out, the guy, he didn't own it. He went up and picked it up north in the Rust Belt when he went up to get another machine, and he was at an auction or something. He saw it and it was a good deal, so he just picked it up and brought it back down to resell it. That's the only reason it ended up here, in Knoxville, was because he just decided he was going to get it and flip it.
Wow.
I think you could do good business in Idaho doing that.
Yeah.
Had a Dale Dairy stop by the shop last week, and we were talking about that, just, not being able to find stuff here. And he's down in California, down in the Half Moon Bay area. And he just said, you tell me what you want and what your price tag is. I'll find something. You pay for gas, we'll bring it up. And it's just, that's, his experience is whatever you want, it's there. Just decide what your price point is, and that determines what quality you can get. But not around here.
I drove 5 miles or 5 hours one way to pick up that lathe. Was it up in Indiana, I think? I don't remember any. It's 5 hours north from here. 10 or 11 hours round trip. That was a fun trip. I managed to get in the back of a 250 style truck. Guy had a articulating front end loader. I don't know why this guy had an articulating front end loader, but it was pretty wild. And he picked it up and set it down in the back of the truck.
The problem we have here is that Australia had some manufacturing. We had a car industry up until about 15, 20 years ago, and then that just went away. We couldn't compete with Asia. So when all of the car industry folded up, a lot of the equipment sort of came on the market, and it's pretty much all gone now. And where I live, I'm 2 days drive from Melbourne. So that's where most of the manufacturing was happening, is in Victoria and South Australia. And when I looked for my Bridgeport, there was a total of 2 available in Australia.
Oh, wow.
And yet, because of COVID, you couldn't go and see them. You had to just basically buy them and hope that the pictures were accurate. But I do know that some people who live up around it, Detroit and that sort of area, there must be just tons of machines.
Just give you lathes.
Yeah, it's never going to happen to me.
I got that South Bend for $100.
It's
oh, really?
It's interesting here. It
didn't look like that though.
It's interesting here. The auctions. There's different auction companies, and you can bid online, and you look at the price people pay in those auctions. It's really remarkable. They really, in my opinion, they overpay compared to what you can buy. Right locally here in Craigslist. You look at stuff and you just go like, how do you get to that number? But there is quite a bit of machinery here local in the Bay Area, all the way out, in a 3 to 4 hour drive also.
Well, Billy sent me a link to a $800 Bridgeport.
Yeah.
900.
Yeah. It's an M head though.
It's a what?
M. It's got an M head instead of a
Yeah. Is that a negative?
It's an older style. Doesn't have a power quill on it. I don't even know if it has a quill. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look at it.
I went Thursday. We went. A friend of mine, a guy's had a Starrett pink surface plate. It's in the back of his pickup truck. It's about 3,500 pounds. It's I think 6 or 8 inches thick, and it almost fills the back of the pickup truck on a Starrett stand. $600.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, my buddy's gonna pick it up. Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
Move it. Yeah, the bitch is the move it.
I don't know if you ever saw those pictures that Tom Lipton posted on Instagram. They were breaking up a massive granite surface plate from Berkeley Labs.
Yeah.
And the comments that came in about that were incredible. You know, like some people were literally crying. And I think his comment, his comment was, "Oh, you pay for the warehousing of this thing, and you can have it." But it's just incredible what sometimes gets
lucky enough to
broken up.
go on a tour of his lab throughout the whole building there, and just it's amazing, amazing that the equipment and things that are in there.
Yeah, I think I saw a video where we did a tour, Berkeley Labs, and showed some of the stuff they were working on. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. My Colchester lathe came from a warehouse, and it belonged to a TAFE college. So here in Australia, we have like secondary training colleges for apprentices and so on. And we got word that they were going to get rid of a lot of the equipment that they considered to be unserviceable. So I got the job going down, looking at all these machines, putting tags on them. And the deal was that they would send them to our school free of charge. And we were able to use those machines in our workshops, which were for, kids from sort of 14 up to 17. And when I'd sort of worked out which machines we could use, I said to the guy that was showing me around, "What happens to the rest of these machines?" And he said, "They will be taken to a tip. They'll dig a hole with a bulldozer and they'll bury them."
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, "That's nuts. Why would you do that?" And he said, "They're excess to our inventory." He said, "We couldn't be bothered trying to sell them." And I said, "But that's, these machines are still good." And he said, they're unserviceable or they are obsolete. But on on our level, for as hobbyists, anybody could have used those machines.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder how often that happens at places like schools and universities and colleges and so on, or government institutions.
Hobbyists can use anything.
Speaking of stuff, I'm looking for something, guys. If anybody knows of a good price and a good place to get one, let me know. I am looking for the right angle attachment for the Bridgeport R8 taper, including the arbor and the support for the arbor for my Bridgeport. I've got stuff up on eBay. I've been looking for one, but I can only get the head or I can get the right angle attachment, but most of the time they don't include the arbor or the support. So I'm looking for the package deal. If anybody on the, watching the chat comes across one for a decent price, let me know.
I'm looking for exactly the same thing for mine. I've got the right angle head, but I don't have the arbor or the attachment at the other end.
Yeah.
And I sort of, I don't know whether you can make one, but.
Well, apparently they also come in 2 different angles too, 50 and 55 degrees. And I can never remember which one I have. I have to go measure it every time I turn around.
What's
so this is the dovetail?
The dovetail for the ram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stick that in your phone. That's where I keep everything I don't remember is right there in my phone.
Yeah, I know. I'm bad about that.
And then you lose your phone.
No, I won't lose my phone. I don't carry a wallet, so my ID and my check card stays on the back of my phone in this little pocket thingy. So I'll never lose my phone.
Yo.
Don't never say never.
Yeah.
You have to back it up to the cloud, and then if you lose it, you can still get the data back.
I don't trust I don't trust doing that. I don't keep important stuff on my phone. I keep it on my computer.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
paranoid.
well, I know it's likely to get hacked, but I mean, I don't keep financial information or things like that on my phone. So
Yeah, James, he did sell his Logan.
That was a nice lathe. Myself, I'm in with junk like Chuck's got. He's got these great big monarchs, you know, they're 1,000 pounds an inch, you know, and they're steady and solid. You won't make a cut. It's going to be, you know, just what you started out with, and it'll end up the same way.
Yeah,
That would be nice.
I'm actually quite excited. My Banggood rep wrote me the other day, and he goes, "Here, you want to test drive one of these?" And I said, I looked, and it's a multi-fix, tool post and holders. And I wrote back, "Yeah, I'll do that." So that's supposed to show up here in the next week, I think.
That's the kind that Adam Booth uses, isn't it?
Same as Adam Booth, yeah.
And that's a Chinese import, is it? It's a copy.
Well, it would be interesting. You look at the literature online, and it's all written in German. I gotta assume they just hacked all the literature. Banggood doesn't make it; they market it. But
right, because the original's Swiss, right? But then there's like the
Swiss.
Pee Wee Tools makes a really good German one, except that I don't know if they're actually manufactured in Germany or not. I know all the literature is. And
I don't know who Encos were made by. That's what Adam has, their Encos. But I'm quite excited about it. I think I have 35 AXA holders for my lathe, but I may be switching to multi-fix.
AXAs?
Yes.
Figures. I'm using BXAs.
Well, maybe you have a bigger machine.
Yeah.
Actually, both my machines should have BXAs, and one's got an AXA and the other's got a CXA.
Hey, if you want to sell me some of those AXA, I'll buy some.
I'll let you know.
Right.
I had a shop that I was friends with, and it was going to auction, and so they had a lathe, a Victor, just like Adam's. And so I said, I was going to auction. I says, and there was a Laura CXA and all the tool holders. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll bring my holder down and put it on the lathe, and I'll take all that. The guy goes, okay. And so I basically put one of those four turn jobs, gave him that, and I brought home all the CXA tool posts and holders for just a straight swap. That was a sweet one.
A lot of people like those little turret fork things. I don't like them.
Well, they're a little more solid.
Yeah. I keep one in the drawer. Plus, I have all the lamppost stuff, too. And there is that, every now and then you need a lamppost to reach into some odd space, and you can set up with the tool to get there.
I switch back and forth. Yeah, that Armstrong, the little lantern type, that's really handy. I switch back and forth between that and the quick change.
Yeah.
I've not ever used a lantern style, so I don't know.
They're pretty handy. They go into small spaces, and you can, change the position just by rocking them around.
You have to shim them up though to get them on center, don't you?
No, usually they come with a little shim.
There's a rocker.
A rocker shim that you can take to it special.
Yeah, it's the 4-poster that you got to shim.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, those little mini lathes come, like the one you get Harbor Freight, they come with a little 4-post.
Yeah.
The 4-way. They transfer the load of your tool to the compound a little better.
Mm-hmm.
The quick change, the tool is hanging off the side of the post, not quite as well supported.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, on my lathe, that's not a big deal because the compound flexes long before the tool holder will.
Yeah.
Have you guys considered doing a solid tool post like Stefan's done?
Yep.
Well, hey James, when we had a
surface grinder,
when we had that Grizzly, just like you had, we redid the tool holder for that so that it was six bolts that holded it down through the.
Yeah, it's been on my list for a long time to do that, but it hasn't happened yet. The other thing that's going on is the cross slide on that lathe doesn't have full bearing. There's an issue with the way the dovetail was machined, and so on the right-hand side, on the tailstock side, it's actually sitting on the top of the inner dovetail. It shouldn't be. It should be the large outside of the dovetail sitting on the bottom, but just it's a couple hundredths of a millimeter high, and so it hits there.
Sounds like you need to
see what I did there, Mark?
You scared him off.
No, I'm here.
Sounds like you need to learn how to
millimeter.
scrape it in.
Well, yeah, I could just take a couple strokes of a file and it would be good, but I think the bottom of it's probably not as flat as it should be. So it's on my list of things to do. I've just picked up a scraper, and I just picked up a straight edge blank casting, and it's going on the backlog with all the other projects.
Did you pick up one of those bi-axes from Keith Rucker?
Yep, I did, and I bought one of his straight edge castings too.
He had those up when he come and visited the space, and I don't have that kind of money to put down on something I don't know how to do yet.
Yeah, I know if I started scraping at something, it would be so messed up. Time I got through, you could never grind it even back straight.
Well, I was super shocked because the thing showed up. It's got rust on it. I've never seen a tool with rust on it before, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess the rest of the world has to deal with this.
Yeah. You're just lucky you got low humidity down here. You clean something off, set it outside. You could come back in an hour, and it'll already have rust.
Wait, what had rust on it? The blank or the
biax? The
biax. Okay.
Yep, the exposed steel parts.
What kind of lathe do you have? Okay.
I've just got a little Grizzly benchtop Geo 602. It's a 10 by 22.
Did you ever see the direct mount cutoff tool I made?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't. Just a sec. I'll get it.
James, I like the comment. The brass behind you is blinding.
Yeah.
The belt.
Yeah. So current humidity right here now is 11%.
Remind me, where are you at?
Meridian, Idaho.
Okay.
So it's 91 degrees, 11% humidity.
What's that?
You getting that here?
Now that mounts directly on. I see. So you got that just mounts directly on the compound.
Yeah. And
that's a great idea.
It works perfect. I mean, I can use auto feed on cutoff, no problem.
Is that a T style blade? Is it
T
wider?
style, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's also got a concave. Having trouble with my camera. Concave, like a U shape in the top.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So when it's cutting the chips,
so it curls.
Yeah.
Yeah, they work well.
Yeah, that's an issue I've got here with my lathe. It's parting off. It scares the life out of me. And there's an adapter you can buy that goes on the back of the cross slide, which is a rear tool post. And that's been on my list to make a rear tool post for my lathe, so I can have the parting blade in there permanently. Just pull it into the work.
right?
I'm sort of hoping that'll solve my problems. But I've had occasions where I've broken a tool deep in a part, and it's scary. Like if you've done it once, you then anticipate it's going to happen again and again and again.
For sure.
I used to have all kinds of problems. I mean, I even made a plate that sat across the ways and made a little post that held the blade. And that did work.
Okay, just to make it more rigid.
Yeah. But
yeah, that's a good idea. So obviously there's the flex in the compound, which of course you delete the compound, that gets a lot better. The other issue with the Geo 602 is that the center height over the compound is very low. It's like 23 millimeters, less than an inch. And so it's very difficult to get a cutoff tool that will go on a tool post in any kind of tool post holder and still be on center in the lathe. So if you wanted, a decent size insert cutoff tool, you just can't get it low enough. And that's been the challenge. So you end up with like a 1/2 inch P style, and they flex a lot. Add that to the compound, and the whole thing just grabs and explodes.
So here's something you can do on some lathes. You can turn the cutoff tool upside down and run it in reverse.
I got a screw on.
Me
chuck.
too. Me too.
You
It's
do
got
have a
locks,
screw on.
but it's
but
got
it's
locks,
got
but I would not trust it for that.
I did it. It works okay.
No, it doesn't.
Well, his has the locks. They're little clamps.
Well, they're little clamps, right? They're little clamps that go on the conic surface at the back of the spindle, but with a couple of 5mm screws.
Not
I
mine.
don't know.
And it's tapered too, so it actually pulls it down to keep it. At least the ones I looked at were.
I've got one of those inverted parting tools, and I run the lathe in reverse. I've got a keyed spindle, so that's not a problem.
Right.
But even that scares me. I
Yeah.
usually get about 10mm in, and I go for the hacksaw.
Hacksaw.
And I think a lot of people, they'll look at videos on YouTube, and they'll start off with a parting blade, and they'll sort of seem to be plunging it in, and then all of a sudden the part's off. But I often wonder whether they've been brave enough to go all the way to the center. Because
You know what?
What I'll do is I'll cut in, a couple of millimeters, and then just pop the whole chuck off, put the chuck in the 4x6 bandsaw, and then just slice it. And that works really well.
Well, I figure that you get the job done, but you're not risking your machine, you're not risking your eyes and your fingers and everything trying to do something which is inherently dangerous. And the trouble is you get no warning. So it's going along fine. If you're lucky, you might sort of hear a bit of a strange sound, but then when it breaks, it's catastrophic. So
Real fun when it climbs on top of the tool, huh?
that's
I've had-
Tool
I've
gets sucked under.
I was doing some brass one day and had it to, climb underneath the brass.